Welcome to another episode of Clever Dicks. In this episode, we talk to Bree. Duncan and I met Bree a few years ago when we were at Lake Linden and she swam an ice mile along with a couple of other people. And we caught up just recently at the New Zealand Ice Swimming Pool Championships in Alexandra in the South Island of New Zealand. We cover quite a few things. We talked about some of her swimming achievements and what she's doing next and some of her other experiences in life. It was great to talk to her, as Bree was quite prepared to challenge us older male clever dicks and educate us in a couple of areas. It was a refreshing outlook on life, and I think you're really going to enjoy this chat. Welcome to another Clever Dicks podcast. In this podcast, we're talking to Bree. Welcome, Bree.
Thank you. Kia ora.
Well, Bree has just joined us for some ice swimming, and we're having a little bit of a recording session just in a motel room. So it's all good. If the sound quality is as usual, you'll know why. Normally, we just start off by giving you an opportunity just to explain a little bit about your swim story, kind of where you came from. You can go back to how you learned to swim or anything like that. So what's your swim story, Bree?
Well, I think my first experience with the water, or one of the first ones I can remember, is being thrown off the 7-meter water slide at Kilburnie Pool in a life jacket when I was probably around 2. And then since then, just done lots of swimming and water polo and surf lifesaving, but never really like competitive swimming. And then I decided that I wanted to swim cook straight and spent like a year really focusing on my technique and just zoning in on all of these details of water polo. Obviously gives you terrible swimming technique, so fixing that. And then in 2018 I swam across Cook Strait, and then a few months later cycled to Aotearoa, so the North Island part of that, and then a year later swam Lake Taupua, and then a little bit after that did the South Island of Toa Aotearoa, and then in 2021 I swam an ice mile. And the past few years I've sort of been on and off training for Te Ara Akiwa or Fovo Strait, which I was really ready for this past season, but unfortunately the weather didn't play ball. But this season it's going to be the one.
That's awesome.
Okay, so Bree's managed to wrap up like an hours-long interview in about 10 seconds. She talks a lot, eh? So I'm going to go backwards a step, right? Let's start just with maybe your water polo. High school, I'm assuming. Mm-hmm. What position did you play?
I was quite often on like the wings. My water polo technique was a lot of like constant swimming and splashing and like bit of a pinball up and down.
The same as what you do in the ice community, right? Same thing. Cool.
Running around screaming, being a nuisance. Yeah.
Cool. So you never did swim squads at high school?
No.
So you were always in the water, always swimming, but no like real sort of technical swim training?
I think I was quite addicted to like the, I guess, aggressiveness and adrenaline and teamwork style of water polo. And that really, I found that really fun, working in a team like that and being in that flow state with other people.
Yep.
So I was never really that drawn to competitive swimming. It always felt quite scary and isolating to me.
So it's kind of interesting because quite often swimming is very solitary. And you're obviously, you enjoy the team aspect of it and you're very, very social.
Yeah, definitely. I think community is like one of my strongest pillars of well-being. And when I have a good community, I always feel real good in my life. So I think I definitely have experienced in the open water swimming community that your success is other people's success and vice versa. And so I think it does still feel like a team in that aspect.
Yeah.
How old are you now?
Oh, I'm 26.
On the downhill run, man. So when you did Cook Strait, that was a couple of years ago?
Yeah, I was 21. 21, yeah.
All right. So at that stage, I mean, that's a big swim, right? What made you decide to go, hey, I'm going to swim Cook Strait next year? I mean, that's a mammoth task, right? So you must have had something bit you, or you must have watched somebody else do it, or there must have been a reason, right? You don't go from playing water polo in high school to swimming cook straight up 3 years later.
Yeah. It was like it took up a lot of my teenage life.
Okay.
And when I was maybe 16, there was the New Zealand team trials for world champs in Spain.
Yeah.
And I didn't make the team or the squad. And then so I decided, like, screw this, I'm going to go swim cook straight. When I was younger,
Okay.
Barry Devonport, who was the first officially recorded person
Yep.
to swim across Rokawa Moana or cook straight, he came to our surf club, which was Wessa Bay. And that was the surf club he went to as a kid. And he told us about how he had, for training for it, he had swum back and forth between Sutu Wharf and Wessa Bay 15 times. And I did it once when I was 7. And at the time, I was the youngest person to do it. And it was so hard, a huge challenge, probably quite a formative event in my life, actually, if I think about it. And yeah, very, very special experience for me as like a little 7-year-old being in what felt like this huge open ocean. Yeah. I think it's only probably like a K total there and back.
But for a 7-year-old, I mean, that's mammoth. Right?
Yeah. And
that's like a cook straight experience.
Yeah. And my friend's dad did breaststroke with me the whole way along. My dad was commentating and I could hear him calling out on the speaker. It was really cool. But then hearing this about what Barry Devonport had said, going back and forth 15 times, I was like, holy, like, I would never want to do that. Why would anyone want to do that? But I think it did start a spark in my head. And then, when I didn't make that water polo squad, I decided, screw this, I'm going to go train for cook straight. And then I kept swimming and I kept playing water polo. And about a month before the World Championship happened, they changed the team. And there were some people who hadn't trained, and because I had kept training, they pulled me back in, and I had to make this decision. And of course, once in a lifetime opportunity, I went to Spain, and it was incredible. And then I had obviously quite a few years where I didn't really think about it. I got sort of burnt out from water polo, finished high school, went traveling overseas for a year, had some insane experiences. Poor mother had to go do cognitive behavioral therapy to get through that year. I got lost in a forest in Canada, rescued by a helicopter, hit by a car in San Francisco the first 5 days of being overseas. Almost got deported because some cops thought that I was doing dodgy stuff when I wasn't. And, you know, a friend had a near-death experience. It was so...
You're saying somebody thought you were doing dodgy stuff? I find it hard to believe that anyone could think that of you, Bree.
Oh, yes, I'm just so innocent.
Tell me about
the ladies going.
Tell me about the helicopter rescue. What was that about?
Oh, I still haven't even finished telling you about why I decided to swim cook straight.
Go.
I can come back to the helicopter, but had this year of traveling, and then took sort of a year to recover from that, just because I think I sort of lost myself a bit. People talk about finding themselves through traveling, but I actually think I lost myself. Had amazing, beautiful experience. Lived in the Arctic, like proper Arctic, minus 40 degrees.
What were you doing?
I was working as a volunteer at a wilderness retreat lodge.
Yep.
It was, God, I could do a whole hour talk about that. It was insane. So cool. Northern Lights, amazing. But it took a while to recover from that year. Got into acting. I'm just telling you my life story now. I had some cops called on me when I was actually acting. I had this, my first and last ever paid role as an actress in a forest in this like park. And I was stabbing a teddy bear with a knife dressed in a bloody dress. And someone walked past and didn't realize it was part of a show and called the police. And then I had 6 cops running at me. And I like dropped the knife and was like, this isn't real.
It wasn't me.
They think when I'm saying this isn't real that, you know, that I'm crazy. And yeah, anyway, after all this, went to Outward Bound, saved up a bunch of money, went to Outward Bound. And Outward Bound was sort of butterfly effect for me in my life in lots of different ways. Got me more into following my sustainability goals, which was I wanted to be zero waste for a year. And then that sort of spiraled and snowballed into like learning a lot more about the climate crisis and biodiversity crisis and the zero waste scene and just a lot of things. So that side of it also got me down the road of wanting to become an outdoor facilitator, which is what my occupation is now at the moment. And thirdly, I decided that it was time to stop mucking around and swim Rokau Moana or Cook Strait.
Yep.
And then after that, I trained for a year and then I did it the following year. So that is a very long-winded story about how
cool. That's interesting. I've learned a few new things about you that I didn't know. That's very cool.
Yes.
That's very cool. How did you train for Cook Strait? Pool?
Yeah. I was really well prepared for Cook Strait. It was the first ever big thing like that I'd ever done. So I really didn't know what I was doing, and I was very, very grateful for the community that got me through all of that uncertainty. So I had an incredible coach, Gary Toner from Australia, who was my dad's friend, and he's absolutely incredible. Shout out to Gary. He provided a training program for me for free and checked in with me, and I went over to Australia at one point to see my family, and we did like a big swim together, and that was awesome. And then, a lot of time spent in the ocean, a lot of training. I think I peaked at 62K a week.
That's big mileage, huh?
Yeah. Lots of swimming.
And the actual Cook Strait swim itself, good weather, good experience. You went with Philip Rush, I'm assuming?
Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely incredible. Could not have been a better day. It was beautiful in every way.
Nice.
Yeah.
You smashed it.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. It's good to say that.
Yeah. Can own it.
Yeah, 100%, man. So maybe just to be a little bit more sort of swim techie for the podcast, what did you do on your feeds? What do you how often do you stop? Who was your second?
Yeah.
What did that look like?
So it was for the first hour, and this is general marathon swimming feeding plans, is after the first hour, stopped and had a gel and some electrolytes and some sports drink, and then after that every half an hour stopping and just treating water. You're not allowed to touch the boat, having bites of muesli bars and sandwiches and bananas and stuff like
every
that.
30 minutes. Yeah Okay. Who was your second?
Vicky Tate. She was awesome. I panicked before Cook Strait, and it's funny to think about now, like just the mental state I was in. I was so invested in that swim. Really, like most of my life, been thinking about it. Financially invested, obviously, emotionally, physically. I'd trained for an entire year. That was, I worked at the pool as a lifeguard, and the ceiling became my sky. I was there every morning and every evening, and I didn't see the sky that much. I would walk into that facility off my bike and it'd be dark, and I'd leave on my bike and it'd be dark.
Nice.
And so I was very nervous, and I did a really big swim a week beforehand, about 20 Ks from Wester Bay round to Oriental Bay to the fountain and then back. And I then went to training the next morning and did a big set with paddles, and I screwed my shoulder.
A week before.
I didn't know that this one was going to be then, but I knew it was soon because Phil was giving me heads up. And I didn't tell Phil that my shoulder was really sore, but I went to go get a massage, and that kind of helped. Still was bad. Went to see a physio. The physio told me, and I quote, "You will not be able to swim Cook Strait this week." And I said, "What about if I do it later on in the season?" And he said, "No, you probably won't be able to do it even later in the season. You'll have to wait till next year." And then,
so you saying you were a rebel and you did not listen to instructions?
No, I freaked out, and I went home and I lay on my bed and watched The Good Place a lot and just tried to disassociate. And then Phil called me and said, "How would you feel? Like, how are you going? We're going to swim tomorrow." And I just was panicking and like, I don't know if I can do it. My shoulder's injured. And Phil understandably was like, "You serious? Why didn't you tell me this?" And then he said, "Well, you've got 15 minutes to make up your mind and call me back." And I had a huge panic attack. And then I called Vicky, and Vicky is absolutely incredible person. So kind and so strong and a great friend. And she is also an osteopath. And so she chatted to me and helped calm me down. And then I sort of pulled myself together and was like, right, I'm just going to go in and I'm going to do this. And then I called Phil back and was like, "I'm ready. I'm going to do it." And then it was actually fine in the end. I just took a bunch of painkillers and then my shoulder was not even an issue. So
Was it an issue afterwards? Did you make it worse?
no, it was better.
Got everything back into place.
Yeah.
That's not a common thing, is it?
No, it's usually the reverse.
Normally we damage ourselves when we try these things here.
Mm.
Is Vicky a swimmer?
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
trained with Vicky?
Yeah, I did actually. We were training in team on squad together. A lot of my training was by myself in the pool. But I did train with team on squad and then with Phil's squad on Sunday mornings and then out in the sea. Yeah.
So it's obviously important that you have somebody that knows you as a person and you as a swimmer to second you.
Yeah.
So she can spot your weaknesses, I guess, and change your feeds or look after you. You want somebody you can trust on the boat,
Yeah,
right?
for sure. Yeah.
Nice.
My mum and my best friend were there as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you've done Lake Taupo as well?
Mm-hmm.
Now, normally it works the other way around, right? It's normally Lake Taupo and then Cook Strait.
Yeah.
So Phil normally says, hey, go and do Taupo. It's longer, but it's a little bit easier in inverted commas to get across. There's currents and conditions and all of that stuff.
It's often warmer.
Yeah.
Yeah, true. How long after Cook Strait was Taupo?
That was 1 year. Yeah. 2 years. Oh, I don't know. I did Cook Strait and
She's 26 and she can't
Yeah.
6 years ago, dude.
It's okay. I can't remember breakfast.
yeah, 2018. My brain's going on a different tangent now. I'm thinking about RBM3 and cold water swimming and how it helps regenerate your brain cells. So
Really?
it improves your brain.
Well, I'm not too sure if it's working because you've just finished a nice kilometre
Yeah.
yesterday,
Yesterday,
and you can't remember what you and I did 5 years ago. So I don't know if it works.
Well, do you reckon your brain's better after going
You can't get
over
much.
10K?
Can't get much worse than what my brain was before.
Start fairly low down.
Well, you're still awake, Jim, so you're doing well.
yeah, got past 60 and past a K.
Done well, dude. So,
You asked me about Taupo.
Taupo, yeah. Starting in the dock.
Yeah, starting at, I think we started at 3:30.
Had you swum at night before?
Yeah, I did. When I was training for Cook Strait, I swim at night a little bit.
Yeah.
And then, we did a bit of training.
Do you like swimming at night?
I love swimming at night, especially when it's not on the ocean. But I didn't love the start of Taupo. It was pretty choppy.
Yeah.
I loved it, but it was hard. It was choppy and it was all over the place. And I was swimming with Rebecca, who is like, whoa, absolute legend. Have you spoken to her yet?
Oh, she's been missing every time we've needed it.
Well, a bit back from a world conquering tour.
Yeah, when she comes back, yeah.
Yeah. So that was really cool, but I had a lot of challenges on that swim. So I only slept for about an hour the night beforehand because it was super hot. I ended up sleeping on the floor because it was just too hot. And I slept probably between 7:30 and 8:30 p.m. And then I went into the swim like mentally feeling good, feeling strong, but the sky there was no sunrise. It just turned from black to grey. And I was feeling quite seasick and my shoulder got really, really sore. And
The same shoulder.
Yeah, it was actually. But like properly sore this time. It did take a while to recover from. Well, the last one was properly sore too, but I don't know what was happening there. And then I started to have an allergic reaction a little bit to the pollen in the lake. And so my breathing was starting to feel kind of painful. And I was maybe 4 hours in with all this happening. And I was like, oh my God, I don't know how I'm going to make it to the end if this is how I feel now. And I've still got like 10 hours to go. But then I told Mike and Phil and they just gave me antihistamines and painkillers and the lake flattened out. And so I didn't feel seasick anymore and the sun came out. And then everything was fine. And my shoulder was still very painful and I was still like not super speedy, but it got through and it taught me lots of lessons about just taking things one step at a time and not thinking about what you're going to feel like later because things might change.
Just staying in the moment.
Exactly.
Yeah, it makes a huge difference when the sun comes out, doesn't it? It's just, I don't think it really warms us up at all, but mentally it's just such a boost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
But also, again, the experience of Mike and Phil on board, they've been through it, probably 50 times before, 100 times before. They, ask them the right questions and they'll give you the right answers and sort you out.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
What time, how long did it take you to do that particular swim?
I think it was just over 14 hours, maybe 14 hours and 7 minutes. I might be remembering that wrong. And it was pretty incredible, actually. Bex and I walked out of the water and Phil had been making us sprint for quite a long time beforehand. It was great. Hated it at the time. I think Phil knew that, but yeah, he was, incredible as always. And then we got out and I turned to Rebecca and we hugged each other and then I sat down straight away. And I just, I think that swim really wiped me, to be honest, doing it on so little sleep and just really struggling through it. And probably not having done enough training either. And Bex was just chatting and walking around, and I just kept on looking up at her being like, how are you still standing? Yeah.
What was the post-swim meal?
Fish and chips.
Yeah.
I'd been thinking about potato fritters the whole way across, so I was adamant that we get fish and chips, and then inevitably I didn't even eat that much. Sort of how it is. You finish those.
What you think you want and what you can eat.
Yeah.
Don't always match, eh? Yeah.
So true.
So the first time I met you, you did an ice mile. What took you from just swimming a long distance over a lake to swimming a short distance in a lake at a silly temperature?
I was doing some swimming in Otautahi, and I was very inspired by the people swimming there and the cold. And I think I just sort of fell in love with how it feels in your body. And
it's addictive, eh?
And I mean, in my degree, I studied a Bachelor of Sustainability and Outdoor Education at ARA, and in my degree, I spent the last year we did a research paper, and I spent that time doing mine on the benefits and risks to cold water immersion. And so I think, I learned a lot actually about the science behind why it's addictive and how the addiction can be good and also bad. So very, very interesting stuff.
Talk to us about that. Why is it good?
Why is cold water swimming good? Well, RBN3, so it's a protein that only exists in your brain when you get hypothermic.
Okay.
And it basically helps to regenerate your brain cells and stop your brain cells from breaking down. So huge implications for Alzheimer's, dementia, and concussions. And I had a concussion when I did my ice mile, and I didn't know about any of this stuff at the time. But after the ice mile, shockingly, my concussion symptoms were better, which I thought, I was like, there is no way that this crazy hard thing that I've just put my body through would have actually improved what's happening with this injury. So I almost sort of gaslighted myself into thinking that I wasn't concussed and that those symptoms had just been me being nervous. And then I found this out a year later when I was doing my study and was, blown away.
So it's just a question on that one, because I've done a fair amount of listening and reading about sort of cold water, but mostly it's kind of the cold shock thing, and there's various things. But what you're talking about is when you're going hypothermic and the whole body is really cool. It's a different experience.
It's
right?
not just from going into a cold shower. It's like you hypothermic, like
you got to be shivering, right?
Yeah, or even shivering. Shivering is usually like, it depends the level of shiver, but it's pretty easy to shiver a little bit.
Temperature dropping, the whole trip, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then obviously the other benefits from just cold water immersion, things like an increase of beta endorphin and noradrenaline, which help your body to relax and help you feel happy. And also hormesis. You guys heard of hormesis?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Have you talked about that much?
No, we haven't.
Do you want me to talk about it?
Yeah.
So hormesis is the theory that a small amount of something that's usually harmful for you can be beneficial, so long as it's in small doses. So examples of that is like things like oxygen deprivation, tickling, extreme heat, extreme cold, and it's your body building resilience by adapting to this difficult thing. And then that can then translate to emotional difficulties that you go through, as well as physical difficulties. Like, for example, your body fighting illness or building its immune system.
So it's a little bit, you're stressing yourself out. So as I understand it, exercise is kind of a form of hormesis, but you're talking about some of those kind of super cold, super hot experiences and things like that, correct?
Yes, yeah.
Cool.
That's pretty crazy. How did you concuss yourself before the ice?
How do you reckon, Duncan? Yeah, I was wrestling someone.
I was about to say, I bet you it's a UPI.
Oh, it's a UPI.
It's an unidentified party injury. You know, where you wake up the night after a party and you got this massive bruise on your arm and you just got no memory of how you got there.
Yeah, I was sober, unfortunately.
You're supposed to tap out before it gets to that stage.
I've never been very good at tapping out.
And we didn't know you when you were a little bit younger, but have you always been so bubbly and positive, or has swimming and this cold water experience helped you to be the person that you are? Well, we're all just talking shit here.
I don't know.
You're like one of the most positive people that I know.
Thanks, Duncan. I mean, I think I've definitely been through some pretty rough times where I haven't been a positive person. Like, there were 2 years in uni where my life, absolutely effing sucked. And it was mostly my internal thought patterns as well as some situational things going on. And I think I learned a lot through those really difficult times. And I think your 20s is kind of all about, I'm trying not to swear, just after the warning you gave me. But
I didn't give the warning.
Effing around and finding out, and like love and war in your 20s, like learning how to what kind of treatment you want to accept, and what kind of how to treat people well and how to be treated well. And unfortunately, along the way, I think it's very easy to hurt people and to get hurt, but I think being able to find the silver linings and the lessons you can learn and forgive yourself and forgive other people. And so
it's a learning curve, right?
Yeah. And so I think like that stuff, while it was awful at the time, truly awful, has made me a bit stronger and a bit more resilient now, which is saying something, because I think I was pretty strong and resilient before that stuff happened as well. But
I'm a believer of that. I think you can choose your attitude.
Yeah.
You don't have to let other people or other events define your attitude. Yeah.
And obviously I feel like the whole like what doesn't kill you makes you stronger can sometimes be a bit toxic, because like when you have a really traumatic experience, sometimes it doesn't make your life better. It makes things worse, and you're scarred. And I think
got to figure out how to get around it, or
and then you grow around your grief. Sometimes things, terrible things can change your life forever. But if it's not such a terrible thing, then you can
learn and move on and be stronger because of it.
Yeah, exactly.
It wasn't good, but it's in the past.
Yeah.
Our past doesn't have to define us.
Of course. Yeah.
How do you balance swimming, work, life? Because obviously there's, the most sort of average person in the street will always say, I don't have time to train, I don't have time to swim, or, there's always an excuse not to do something, right? So how do you balance?
I think I have to prioritize the things in my life that I want to do. And so I think giving myself reasons why this thing is important to me is really helpful, because then I can say, okay, well, I know that's why I need to prioritize my time towards that thing. I am such a procrastinator. I will add an hour onto my swim either side just because I'm sitting in the changing rooms on my phone thinking I don't want to get in the water. So that is something I am constantly battling with and trying to get better at. But I don't know, everyone's brains kind of work in mysterious ways, I guess. And
But you're aware of it, right? Which is the first hurdle, because I did the same, right? I've been to probably more than once. I've stopped at the gym on the way home. Yeah, I pulled into the car park and I've made the effort to get there, and I've just sat there for half an hour, and then I'm like, fuck it, and I've gone home and I haven't swapped.
That's so relatable. I'm so glad someone else does this.
And it's normal.
It's so relatable.
It is normal, right? And there's always and you sort of hinted at it, right? You've got to sort of figure out what's important and then try and prioritize it. And it's never easy, right? Because there's always a reason to not do something or to feel guilty for doing something, right? You got friends and family waiting at home. You've got work to do. I've got a big lecture tomorrow I've got to prep for. There's always some reason not to do it, right? So, yeah, I can relate to that. Right? I can relate to that. And Jim will tell you that I'm Mr. What? Captain Reliable.
Captain Reliable, that's his name, isn't it?
And I'll tell you what's worked for me, right? Because often Jim likes to swim really, really early in the morning on a weekend, right? At 7:30, and I go to bed late. We hang out at home with the kids and watch movies and just chill. So I go to bed late, wake up early, and I'm like, oh my God, I've got to go and meet Jim like in the dark, go for a swim. So sometimes I don't go, right? But what's worked for me is I swim with Shazil, who you might know. I don't think you've met him, but you might have seen pictures of him. And I'm his support swimmer. And I feel so guilty to let him down, right? Because his mom's like broken her neck and sort of got him up early and got him sorted out and fed him and got his routine going, showered, ready. And, so if I don't arrive, he doesn't swim. So for me, that's been amazing, right? Because I'm like, hey, Shazil's there. I've got to get my ass out of bed and go and be there for him.
So you're saying that if I had to get my wife to shower me and dress me, then you come swimming with me?
I would do it for Alison, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Yeah, it's good to know that.
I'll see if I can organize that for you. Okay. Are all your mates swimmers, or have you got like a circle of non-active mates that think you're just completely mad for doing the stuff that you do? Or...
Definitely a mix.
Yeah.
I have all of my friends are inspirational, just in different ways.
Yeah.
So I have, I'm so lucky. I've got so many cool friends. One of my friends, Joy, is an author, and she's published some incredible things, including this really awesome book called Dream Girl. So that's super badass and inspires me a lot, all of her work. And she definitely doesn't understand the swimming, but that's cool.
Dream Girl.
There was
I was going to ask you something amazing. Your ice mile, your first ice mile, which was at Lake Linden.
Yeah.
Lake Linden. That was quite an epic week. You would have decided to swim some ice swims. And in a space of 3 or 4 days, you did a 500, you did 1,000, and you did a mile, which is pretty damn epic, right?
Thanks.
Tell me about that experience of, I guess, the mile. What does it feel like to get into water that's 3 degrees, and what goes through your mind at the start?
I feel like this is quite funny. You're asking this, but you've just done over 2K. You swim in the ice. It's like,
what about your experience?
Yeah.
It might be different.
I truly am really interested in why people do this, because everybody has got a different why.
Yeah.
And I really am super interested in
why did you do it?
Why did I do it? I think to challenge myself. I was pretty scared of it, and from my experience, usually when you're scared of something like that, it's because it's worth doing and is going to be an experience that you learn a lot from. And and in terms of what it felt like, it was very, very difficult with the hands and toes, I guess. But I think the worst part of it for me was when I was on that home stretch, on that final lap back in, and I lost control and feeling with my lips, and so I couldn't keep my lips closed, and so there was water coming into my mouth.
That's a normal problem for you.
Yeah. Shut up. You're one to talk, Duncan. You're just as bad, if not worse,
Not as bad as you do.
at talking.
Yeah, you're a mentor me when it comes to talking shit.
Yeah, whatever.
Okay, so you couldn't keep your lips closed and you panicked on the last leg, yes?
Yeah, I didn't panic. I think I was like, oh, okay, I'm going to have to start being very conscious of how I managed my airways. And so I was balancing, trying to be constantly blowing out bubbles when I was underwater, which I don't usually do. And then sometimes if I, ran out of air, of bubbles to blow out, then and my lips obviously couldn't close and water would be going in, but I was just making a conscious effort to make sure it went in the right way. So I was swallowing it instead of breathing it. But then that's not great either. That's
obviously
cold water going
if
in
it
your
goes down
stomach.
a long tube, you're going to cough and splutter, and that's not great. Right?
Yeah, I
So
didn't
you've
want to
got
be breathing in water, so I was drinking it instead. But that also was not ideal. It made my stomach.
Did you
cold.
consciously feel your body slowing down and sort of tightening up, or were you? I mean, you're a machine, right? So
I think I felt it slowing down.
yeah.
I think, honestly, the most extreme part of that experience was the after drop, sitting in the camper van and
Harder than the swim, right?
maybe not harder because I didn't have to do anything. I just sat there and let it, let the shivering happen. But
a challenge in its own, right?
Yeah, definitely difficult to go through, and just sort of when it hit and then you go, oh my God, and your whole world just closes in.
So talk to us about that for listeners that, haven't been through an after drop. So you get to the end of your swim. There's a couple of guys at the end, a buddy system helping you out the water.
Mm-hmm.
They'll obviously get your cap and goggles off, throw a towel around you, and then walk you to the camper van, right?
Yeah.
Camper van's technically heated. And then you've got if it was the boys, we had one person helping us. If it was the girls, it was like a team of women all looking after each other, right?
Yeah.
What happens to your body and your mental state for that sort of 30, 40 minutes after an ice mile?
Sometimes you're not all there mentally. You're usually not all there physically. So physically is usually the first thing to go. And then, it's sort of like being in a daze or something. It's a bit strange, or like being drunk. Like sometimes you can't remember when you think back about what happened and who changed you and things that you said.
Happen to you a lot?
I've never experienced that.
What you said with being in a daze, I think that really related to some of my experiences when you're just not there, and sometimes you quite really not there, and sometimes you almost there. Yeah, it's
almost disassociation, which I've had a bit of experience with when I was going through hard stuff, and it's your body sort of disassociates itself to protect itself when you're going through hard stuff emotionally. And I think that happens as well when you're hypothermic. Maybe for a similar reason, who knows? But your brain sort of starts to not process things in the same way, or not quite be 100% present.
Yep, absolutely.
And I get quite euphoric when I'm hypothermic, which is fun.
It's fun to watch.
Yeah. So
for the listeners out there's nothing more exhilarating than watching Bree get in, but she's almost as enthusiastic on the way out, whereas most people are just there. I'm just going to go stoic, and I'm just going to withdraw in myself, and I'm going to go into the hurt locker and just do it. No, Bree's out there and bouncing and screaming and shouting, and it's wonderful to watch.
Thanks. Yeah, I definitely love to tell people how much I love them and appreciate them while they're getting me changed and like wrapping me up and stuff. But I actually on the 1K it was actually quite painful in my uterus, which was really interesting. But I think that I'm all about destigmatizing periods and that sort of thing. So yeah, I think I got my period yesterday when I was doing.
You're talking about now, this case.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I'm now like going forward.
Now in the present. Cool.
Yeah, but that was actually more painful than last year. That just that tightness inside me. It was
Okay.
awful. Yeah.
So, for the listeners' benefit, in this dodgy motel room that we're in, we've got Francois, who you would have heard on a podcast a couple of weeks ago, who's done some volunteer work with the Coast Guard, who's sitting in the room. We've got Jim, we've got Brianna and myself, and we've all just done some ice swimming literally today or yesterday. But the difference, Bree, from this swim to that swim was maybe temperature. So your swim this time around was in water of about 2.1, 2.2 degrees.
Yeah.
Whereas Lake Linden was high threes. Now, I know, in general, a swing of a degree or a degree and a half probably shouldn't mean that much. But I think when you're in the water for whatever it is, 18 minutes, 17 minutes, whatever it is, that's going to have a massive impact on you. And maybe that's the difference that you felt physically is the temperature. I don't know.
I actually think it definitely was to do with having my period. Just because I didn't have my period last time, and it was a very specific feeling. It was like cramps but intensified, yeah. And I think that's actually quite similar for a lot of people, talking to other people who have had their periods on this as well. But it could be interesting actually to see the correlation.
So it's worse, is what you're saying?
It was worse during the swim, yeah. And now the cramps actually haven't been as bad, and I wonder if that's because of the swim. But it would be an interesting thing to investigate.
Start a whole movement, man. You feel your period coming on. Hey, girls.
Yeah.
Go and do a nice kilometer.
Yeah.
You might save marriages. You could be it could be a whole movement that just.
Well, more important than marriages, people's physical pain levels and well-being. Because I've honestly, like, the percentage of men to women doing ice swimming is like.
It's more women, right?
And women are generally better in the cold and over long distances.
Women are just generally tougher, right? Mentally and physically.
Yeah, we always admit to that.
Yeah. And so I think investigating into, things like women's pain management and cold water swimming could be super interesting.
So you're going to put your hand up to do that type of research going forward?
Oh, I'm too busy, Duncan. I've got so many things on.
But you're so young, man. You might do this in 10 years' time.
It's true.
You don't have to do it now.
So young. I don't feel that young.
List, man.
Yeah, I'll add it.
I want to go backwards a step.
Yep.
Triple Crown of New Zealand swimming is Cook Strait, which is the fancy word you gave me is?
Raukawa Moana.
Lake Taupo.
Yep.
Which is, fancy word?
Oh, is it Taupoa Nui? Oh, I don't actually know. I'd have forgotten right now in the moment what the full name is. I can look it up quickly.
Cool. And then the third swim is Fovo Strait.
Yes, Te Ara Akiwa, the Path of the Whale.
Path of the Whale.
Yes. So I'm currently training to do that. I think the full name for Taupo is Taupo Nui Atea.
Taupo
Nui Atea. Apologies if that's not fully correct, but yes.
So you were booked and sorted to do Fovo. What was the story? No weather window?
Yeah, the weather window came too late in the season, and by then the temperature had already dropped.
Too cold.
And so part of me coming back into ice swimming is to get that practice for Te Ara Akiwa so that I can do it earlier in the season. And it's actually been quite a beautiful experience because that was sort of my main reason, but also has to see everyone else again. And I felt a little bit emotional actually coming back to see everyone, to see you guys after going through such hard times. It kind of feels like that stuff is like
we're here for you, man.
Yeah, it's no longer relevant to my life really.
Excellent.
It's been a lot of healing and processing, but I feel like it's really been behind me for a while now, and to come back into this space again feels like coming full circle and feels quite significant.
It's super good to have you around.
Thank you.
Love your energy.
Thank you.
Well, it felt pretty normal for me to have Bree whipping our asses again and making us look like old farts, right? So it was.
Oh, you don't need me to do that.
Thanks, Bree.
Yeah, I can do it on my own.
Thanks, man. Oh. Hey, so from a purely swimming perspective, like maybe other than the, I guess the water polo and surf life saving community that sort of has inspired you a little bit, have you got any sort of mentors or marathon swimmers that you sort of look up to that, you know, that have helped, or you want to do some of the swims that they've done? You know, talk to me about
Well, when
what your bucket list looks like, maybe.
Yeah. Well, when I was first training for Rokawa Moana for Cook Strait, I got in touch with Mark, who is awesome, and he, was like a real mentor for me and was really lovely, and that was really cool. And just lots of people in general in the community, very supportive all the time. And I think I feel inspired by different people at different points. Usually it's the people that I'm closest to at the time I feel inspired by.
Yep. So right now it's me and Jim that are on. Come on, Bree. Just say it once for the camera. We don't
Jim
have a
and
camera.
Duncan, you inspire me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was actually very inspired by your swim yesterday, Duncan. It was incredible. And watching you get wheeled away to We Are the Champions was the cherry on top. And Duncan, I was reflecting, Jim, I was reflecting, I need the RBM3. Jim, I was reflecting on how far you've come as well since last time that I saw you swimming. And I was, that's been also very special to watch.
The first time you met Jim, he was working as a safety officer on the IRB at Lake Linden.
Yeah.
And his first ice swim there was like
20 meters.
50 meters?
No, 20.
In a wetsuit, wasn't it?
No, Rod was in a wetsuit.
Roger was in,
No.
He had no cap. He did that.
Yeah, I forgot my cap and I forgot my toe float. So I just, but it was short and sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
and now he's done a kilometer in 2.1 degrees, right?
Yes.
Not bad for an old clever dick, eh?
Yeah, but just for the listeners, the Chief Clever Dick did 2.25 kilometers in just over 2 degrees. I think that we might have to demote him to not so clever Dick because that was pretty.
You can't remember the last 5 minutes of that swim, but anyway, stupid dick.
That was awesome.
But yes, people that inspire me, friends like Eliza and Liana and Rebecca and Karina.
That Wellington swim bunch is amazing. Right?
And also just Alicia and Rachel, their determination and their kindness. And honestly, I could just keep going. And Jackson, and I feel like I could start naming people.
Such a cool bunch of people.
And Adriana, who is now overseas. But Adriana and I did many a kick set and gossip session, which has been great.
Yeah.
I feel very, very privileged and honoured to be surrounded by so many incredible people and so many incredible wahine as well. So
What's
really
a wahine?
Woman.
God,
So-
I've put my foot in that one. I won't forget that one. Wahine. Amazing wahine.
Yeah.
I got it.
I was just going to say, you're really impressive with your ability to go with all the Maori names. You're obviously a Kiwi. Do you have Maori heritage, or is this just something that you...
No, I don't
grow into?
whakapapa Māori, but I think it's really important to be a good tangata tiriti or a good partner of te tiriti or waitangi. So as Pākehā, I do my best to, and I can always do better. I think everyone can always do better. Yeah.
Yep.
So it's a journey of constantly trying to be better and learn and be open to feedback. But little things just like calling swims by the te reo name, I think is a good step for people in the first direction.
What do we call it? An ice mile? Have we got a name for that yet?
I don't know.
I'll leave that with you then.
I'll probably leave it with someone who is
reach out
tangata
to
whenua, actually.
reach out to Wirimu
Wirimu Campbell.
Campbell.
We're going to need to get that. And we also need to get a So you've got the All Blacks, you've got the Black Sticks, what do we call the Kiwi ice milers, right? We had small black dicks, but that wasn't going to go down well.
Oh, God. Also,
we'll have to think of something else.
I feel like this is like quick thing as well. I feel like lots of Pākehā people get sort of congratulated on the effort that they put into, te reo and, learning about Te Ao Māori, the Māori worldview. But I feel like that recognition should actually go to tangata whenua, because like the ways that tangata whenua have fought to keep that culture when it's been
100% agree with you. Yep. We need to do more, right?
Yes. And also I was going to say with Te Arakiwa, just in case I forget, the swim that I'm doing is to raise awareness for shark conservation. Okay. So I have a Facebook and an Instagram, which is Swimming Te Arakiwa for Sharks, and I'm raising money for Mountains to Sea, which is a really awesome organization that helps connect people to the environment, which is very important to me. Part of my work as an outdoor facilitator, and through my personal experience, I've learned that people are much more likely to protect something that they care about and are connected to. But yeah, sharks are in a lot of danger, like every other species with the climate crisis, and 100 million sharks are killed by humans every year, and they play a really important role in the ecosystem. They're incredible. There's over 500 species. There's sharks that live to be 500 years old.
No ways.
The Greenland sharks. Yeah. Do you know what? Very relevant to ice swimming. They live in waters so cold that their body has developed its own antifreeze.
No ways. We need to get some of that shit.
Yeah.
Greenland sharks.
Greenland sharks.
How many of those are left in the world?
I'm not actually sure, but
no, the number
they're endangered.
They're endangered. Yeah.
And they live to be super old. So connection between cold water and longevity,
I was just had a holiday over. It was my non-ice training. I went to Tahiti and I went scuba diving there, and they said if you're lucky you get to see the black tip sharks. But I wasn't lucky.
Oh,
but I have swum with sharks before.
Story, Jim.
I have swum with sharks before.
Have you?
Yeah, I swam with the grey nurse or the ragged tooth sharks in South Africa, and some reef sharks on the barrier reef.
I would love to swim with a whale shark.
I have swum with a whale shark. Sodwana Bay in South Africa. We were on the way back from a scuba dive, and the guy just stopped the boat. He said, "Whale shark!" and jumped off, and it was just cruised next to us, and we swam with it for 3 or 4 minutes. Yeah,
whale sharks, just for the listeners, have skin like the night sky. They're black and they've got these white dots, and they're huge. They're filter feeders. They're really graceful. And I should also say, the reason that I'm swimming Te Arakiwa for shark conservation is that it's a great white shark breeding area. So some of the most aggressive sharks, great white sharks in the world, live down in the Te Arakiwa region between Rakiura, Stewart Island and Bluff. It's quite a big breeding ground. So that is why I'm doing it for sharks.
Yeah. So when you guys swim, have you got like shark shields or anything like that? Or
no, I think Phil is quite against them, and I can see why, because I think there's conflicting evidence that sometimes it might attract the sharks.
Yeah. And so my understanding is that it obviously sends out electronic pulses, and those electronic pulses are felt quite far away by the sharks, and they're intrigued to figure out what it is, so they come closer. But obviously when they get to within a certain distance, and I don't know what that distance is, it then becomes uncomfortable, and then they leave. But you're effectively calling them to you. God. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then when they get to you or close to you, they then feel uncomfortable and dart away.
Yeah.
So I don't know how I feel about them, right? Because you just need, a shark like you that's a bit thick-skinned and stubborn, and he'll just go through those electronic pulses anyway, right?
Yeah.
So
my view on sharks is that they eat fish, not people, and we're not on the menu, so I just swim.
Yeah. Healthy respect.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, that's an amazing charity to be working towards. And if there's anything that we can do to help, let us know.
Thank you. Well, you've helped just by allowing me to give them a shout out. go check them out. Mountains to Sea Wellington. They do awesome free community snorkel events.
Yep.
And they run heaps of really cool programs for schools, for organizations.
Cool. We'll put links to that in the show notes.
Yay, thank you.
Yep. You'll get all of that because I'm useless with admin. So yes.
Yes.
Your job.
Somebody's got to do it.
Nice. Dude, you are a legend. It's really been so good for me to have met you over the last couple of years. And I know we box and we you're always pulling the little middle finger at me, and I cry and I sit in a corner and try and get my confidence back up. But you are a legend, and massive respect for everything that you are currently doing and have done. And as two old clever dicks, we look forward to what the next 5, 10, 20 years of swimming looks like for you. And hopefully we'll catch up in a couple of years' time and have some new adventures to talk about, right?
That sounds great. And ditto for everything, Duncan. Yeah, and Jim. Huge love and respect to both of you. Now I can be a bit mean with my finger pulling on the side of the pool, but it's also because I know that you love it. So
I absolutely love it. Yeah. No, it's been wonderful chatting. Thanks so much for your time, Bree.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank
Lots of love.
Bree.
Well, I hope you enjoyed listening to that as much as we enjoyed talking to Bree. We've put a number of links in the show notes to some of her social media accounts, to the book she talked about and the protein, the cold shock protein that she discussed, as well as to the charity that she's doing on her Swimming Te Ara a Kiwi for Sharks. Have a look through that, and if you appreciate it, give her some support. Cheers. Bye.